In the African savannah, the survival of predators depends on precise calculations. Every chase demands energy. Every mistake can mean days without food. Lions, hyenas, and cheetahs face not only their prey, but also scarcity, climate, and constant competition. In this video, we observe how these hunters operate, what strategies work, and why many fail. And before we continue, if this type of documentary interests you, like and subscribe to follow other journeys through wildlife. The African savannah supports one of the highest concentrations of large predators on the planet, but hunting here is no guarantee of success. During the dry season, prey availability decreases and energy expenditure increases. Lions depend on cooperation, cheetahs on speed, hyenas on endurance and opportunity. If this type of detailed observation interests you, following the channel helps keep this content available. And with less food available, each attempt needs to be calculated. In the savannah, hunting is an energy equation. Lions are successful in about 20 to 30% of attempts, depending on the size of the group and the prey. Cheetahs can reach speeds close to 100 kilometers per hour, but only for a few seconds, with an average success rate of around 40 to 50% of their attacks. Hyenas, being more resilient, maintain intermediate rates, compensating for failures with persistence. And as the dry season progresses, making mistakes comes at an increasingly higher price. Most hunting attempts in the savannah end in failure. Even for lions, more than 2/3 of attacks do not result in capture. Cheetahs need up to 30 minutes to lower their body temperature after a run, before attempting another. Minor injuries, dehydration, and accumulated fatigue further reduce the chances of success throughout the day. During the dry season, regaining energy is just as important as hunting. In the savannah, competition doesn't only occur between predator and prey. Hyenas may lose or steal food in up to 30% of encounters with lions, depending on the number of individuals involved. Lions, in turn, often benefit from hunting other smaller predators. These interactions reduce feeding time and increase the risk of confrontations and injuries. During the dry season, splitting or losing a carcass can determine who stays active. The heat is reshaping hunting routines on the savannah. In many regions, large predators concentrate their activity at dawn and dusk, when temperatures drop and water loss is lower. Lions can spend 16 to 20 hours a day resting, reducing energy expenditure, and preventing overheating. Cheetahs need to dissipate heat quickly after sprinting. During the dry season, shade and water are resources that are as limited as food itself. As the heat intensifies, hunting activity is concentrated in increasingly shorter windows of time. In the savannah, most raids occur in the early morning hours or shortly after sunset. Predators that misjudge this timing expend more energy than they can replenish. If this type of scientific observation interests you, following the channel helps keep this content available. During the dry season, the temperature clock determines who tries and who waits. In the savannah, hunting strategy directly influences the chances of success. Lions hunt in packs and increase their efficiency by surrounding and isolating prey, especially large herbivores. Cheetahs, being solitary animals, rely on surprise and short distances to compensate for their lack of cooperation. Hyenas combine physical endurance with flexible coordination. Each model has advantages and limitations, and none guarantees food every day. Success rates vary widely among savanna predators. Lions are successful in capturing prey on average 1 out of every 4 attempts, while cheetahs, under ideal conditions, can achieve almost 50% success, but at a high physical cost. Hyenas maintain more stable efficiency throughout the day, even with lower individual rates. Repeated failures reduce body mass, strength, and endurance, crucial factors for long-term survival. Predation is not a static process. In the savanna, prey animals rapidly adjust their behavior after encounters with predators. Wildebeest and buffalo increase their vigilance and reduce feeding time after attempted attacks. Larger groups can reduce individual risk by up to 30%, according to behavioral estimates. Predators, in turn, need to vary their routes, schedules, and targets. When a pattern is recognized, efficiency drops for both sides. Throughout the drought, the damage becomes visible. Predators that repeatedly fail lose body mass and muscle strength. In adult lions, losses of up to 10 to 15% of body weight can occur during prolonged periods of scarcity. Minor injuries, previously tolerable, now limit movement and efficiency. Survival ceases to depend on a single hunt and becomes defined by the sum of decisions made over the course of several days. As the dry season progresses, decisions that were previously avoided begin to be considered. Predators take more risks when attacking larger or better defended prey. These choices increase the chance of injury, which is responsible for a significant portion of indirect deaths among large carnivores. At the same time, avoiding hunting can lead to a continuous loss of body condition. In the savanna, survival becomes a delicate balance between immediate risk and prolonged hardship. When smaller prey becomes scarce, some predators begin to consider riskier targets. In the savanna, attacks on buffalo and other large herbivores represent a high physical cost and a greater likelihood of serious injury. Studies indicate that a significant portion of injuries in adult lions occur during these attempts. Even when successful, this type of hunt requires more time, more energy, and greater exposure to competition. During the dry season, physical limits are constantly tested. Successful captures of large prey are rare events in the savanna. Even for experienced lion prides, this type of hunt represents a small fraction of their total annual success. When it occurs, the energy gain is high, but it quickly attracts competitors. Hyenas and other carnivores can locate a carcass in less than an hour, guided by sight and smell. Immediate success creates new pressure, defending the food. After a capture, the challenge changes rapidly. In the savanna, large predators can feed undisturbed for a few minutes to a few hours, depending on the number of competitors attracted. Hyenas can reduce lions' effective feeding time by up to 50% in some scenarios. Defending the carcass requires energy, constant vigilance, and increases the risk of physical confrontation. Even success has immediate costs. With the arrival of twilight, the balance of power begins to shift. Hyenas are more active at night, benefiting from physical stamina and vision adapted to low light conditions. Lions also hunt at night, but the prolonged defense of a carcass becomes more difficult with reduced visibility. Studies indicate that, after sunset, the likelihood of food loss due to interference increases. In the savannah, night redefines who has the advantage. During the night, the dynamics of the savannah change in a measurable way. Hyenas are able to travel dozens of kilometers in a single night, exploiting their endurance and group communication. Lions also hunt after sunset, but continuous vigilance increases energy expenditure. Cheetahs drastically reduce their nocturnal activity due to their reliance on sight and vulnerability to competitors. In the darkness, endurance matters more than speed. In the final hours of the early morning, fatigue begins to take its toll. Predators active at night exhibit a gradual decline in performance, with reduced speed and reaction time. Hyenas are still active, but at a lower intensity. Lions face the dilemma of whether to persist in hunting or conserve energy for the next day. For some individuals, this is the last viable window before dawn resets the conditions of the savannah once again. With the dawn, the effects of the night become evident. Predators active during the early morning hours show clear signs of fatigue, while others resume activity after long periods of rest. Lions that spent the night defending food now need to reassess their energy expenditure and thermal risk. For hyenas, the transition marks the end of a long period of continuous movement. The new day does not erase the previous effort, it reveals it. With the new day, the cycle begins again under the same limitations. During the dry season, predators can go several consecutive days without a successful capture. Adaptation does not depend on a single event, but on the ability to repeatedly adjust routes, schedules, and targets. Lions reduce their movements. Cheetahs await ideal conditions. Hyenas maintain constant exploration. Survival here is built on repeating efficient decisions. Adaptation has clear physiological limits. During prolonged periods of scarcity, predators enter a chronic energy deficit, reducing muscle mass, speed, and responsiveness. Even efficient strategies cease to be worthwhile when the frequency of failures outweighs the gains. In the savannah, pressure doesn't act in a single day, but accumulates over weeks. Survival then depends not only on hunting, but on how much one can lose without collapsing. When scarcity persists, predators resort to less frequent survival strategies. Some individuals expand their territories, increasing their movement and energy expenditure. Others drastically reduce activity, prioritizing extreme conservation. Field studies show that during critical periods, mortality is not only linked to a lack of prey, but also to an inability to balance risk, heat, and remaining energy. In the savannah, extreme choices arise when options run out. During prolonged periods of environmental stress, small failures accumulate until they generate localized collapses. Individuals with lower energy reserves or previous injuries have a higher risk of mortality. In the savannah, natural selection acts silently, favoring those who manage to balance expenditure, recovery, and opportunity. These processes do not occur abruptly, but through gradual losses throughout the dry season. Survival begins to reflect real biological limits. When pressure reaches critical levels, behavior adjusts. Opportunistic predators begin to exploit smaller targets, such as carcass remains or weakened individuals, reducing immediate risk. This change does not represent abundance, but a temporary rebalancing of the system. In the savannah, small energy gains can be enough to get through critical periods. Survival often depends less on great successes and more on avoiding further losses. As the afternoon progresses, the system reorganizes itself once again. Predators reduce activity to conserve energy before the next peak opportunity. In the savannah, daily cycles repeat themselves, but never under the same physical conditions. Each rest period carries the consequences of the previous effort. As the sun sets, tension gradually returns, a sign that critical decisions will once again need to be made. With dusk, a new hunting window opens. The gradual drop in temperature reduces the thermal cost of movement and increases predator activity. Lions and hyenas are moving around again, while prey are strengthening their groupings and vigilance. If you're interested in this type of video about animal behavior, following the channel helps keep this work going. In the savannah, dusk is never just a transition, it's preparation. In the early evening hours, activity increases rapidly. The drop in temperature allows for longer journeys, while reduced visibility favors closer approaches. Hyenas intensify coordinated patrols, exploiting resistance and communication. Lions cautiously resume hunting attempts, balancing opportunity and risk. For prey, this is a critical period. Reaction time decreases, and vigilance needs to be constant. As night falls, the encounters become more indirect. Predators adjust their trajectories to avoid unnecessary confrontations, conserving energy and reducing the risk of injury. Hyenas maintain spaced-out communication while exploring large areas. Lions alternate between advancing and waiting, assessing even the slightest signs in their environment. For prey, any positioning error can be decisive. In the nocturnal savannah, many choices are made in silence and without a second chance. In the wee hours of the morning, accumulated fatigue imposes clear limits. Predators that are active for hours on end show reduced attention, speed, and coordination. Hyenas are still on the move, but with more frequent pauses. Lions need to decide between persisting with new attempts or conserving energy for the next cycle. For prey, this period combines physical exhaustion and low visibility, one of the most critical times of the night. With the new dawn, the effects of the previous cycle become visible. Predators that remained active during the night show clear signs of exhaustion, while others resume activity after forced rest. Physical condition now reflects decisions made hours or days earlier. In the savannah, dawn does not represent a new beginning, but a continuous balance between loss and recovery. Each new day begins with less margin for error. With the dry season dragging on, the margin for adaptation decreases even further. The availability of prey decreases, water becomes concentrated in a few spots, and competition intensifies. Predators need to cover larger areas to find viable opportunities, increasing their daily energy cost. At this stage, small advantages, experience, position, or timing, become what determines survival. The system enters a critical phase where the error becomes unrecoverable. With scarcity becoming more pronounced, prey and predators begin to converge on the same areas. Water and remaining pasture act as poles of attraction, increasing animal density and the risk of encounters. For predators, proximity increases opportunities, but also direct competition. For prey, grouping reduces individual risk, but eliminates escape routes. At this stage of the dry season, every movement is observed and evaluated. When the density increases, decisive attempts arise. Predators can no longer test without commitment. Each attack consumes energy that is difficult to replenish. During the dry season, repeated failures accelerate physical collapse. Lions prioritize prey with less mobility, while hyenas wait for mistakes and secondary opportunities. For prey, any hesitation can be exploited. At this point, the mistake ceases to be merely a setback. It becomes a determining factor. The attempt is resolved quickly. In the savannah, outcomes are rarely lengthy. Either the prey escapes in the first few seconds, or the predator interrupts to avoid excessive expenditure. Even without a complete capture, the movement alters the energy distribution in the system. Prey disperse, predators reassess positions, and opportunists adjust their routes. The immediate result is not abundance, but reorganization, and this reorganization will define what will be possible in the coming hours. After the attempt, the consequences quickly become apparent. Even without a capture, the effort alters priorities and positions. Weaker predators give way, while individuals in better condition take over strategic areas. In the savannah, hierarchies are not fixed. They reorganize themselves according to energy, risk, and immediate opportunity. These temporary adjustments determine who remains active and who will be forced to retreat until the next viable cycle. After the voltage peak, only a partial recovery occurs. Short rest periods reduce immediate fatigue, but do not restore lost energy reserves. Predators remain vigilant, aware that new opportunities may arise at any moment. During the dry season, rest doesn't mean safety, it just means postponement. As the system temporarily stabilizes, the margin of error continues to decrease. The climax approaches not out of surprise, but out of progressive exhaustion. As twilight returns, the savanna enters its most sensitive period once more. After days of strain, decisions are now being made with minimal margins. Predators are moving again. Prey are increasing their vigilance. The system is nearing its limit, and any imbalance tends to amplify rapidly. During the critical night, the system operates at its limit. After days of scarcity, many predators no longer have sufficient reserves for multiple attempts. Field studies indicate that, during extreme periods of the dry season, a single unsuccessful decision can compromise several days that follow. Lions prioritize targets with minimal risk. Hyenas exploit any sign of failure or exhaustion. At this point, there is no room for gradual adjustments, only direct consequences. After the critical moment, the effects spread throughout the system. Regardless of the direct outcome, energy was expended, positions shifted, and trajectories were redefined. Predators adjust their behavior, prey redistribute space. In the savanna, the true impact of a decisive night is measured by the consequences that remain at dawn. As dawn breaks, the effects of the climax become clear. Some individuals gained temporary access to resources, others lost critical space or energy. In the savanna, the true outcome of a decisive night is not visible in a single event, but in the physical condition, positioning, and behavior that remain. This is how the system adjusts, without pause, without exceptions. After the voltage peak, the system enters a period of relative stability. Activity decreases, not due to abundance, but due to a need for recovery. Predators reduce their movements, prey resume cautious routines. In the savanna, these intervals are essential, not for thriving, but for continuing to exist. With the immediate pressure reduced, the routine gradually returns. But nothing is exactly as it used to be. The savanna records each cycle through small changes in behavior, movement, and physical condition. These adjustments, almost imperceptible, are the mechanism by which the system remains functional despite the scarcity. There is no permanent equilibrium, only continuous adaptation. With the cycle closing, the savanna returns to a functional state, not stable, but operational. Predators, prey, and the environment continue to be adjusted by recent decisions. These systems do not depend on isolated events, but on the continuous sum of choices, physiological limits, and resource availability. This is how the savanna persists day after day. By observing the complete cycle, the pattern becomes clear. Survival in the savanna depends not on isolated strength, but on the relationship between energy expenditure, access to resources, and decision-making. Predators and prey operate within strict physiological limits. When these limits are reached, the system doesn't collapse, it adjusts. This is the basis of ecological continuity. Throughout this cycle, the savanna revealed its essential workings. Predators and prey don't follow scripts. They respond to physical limitations, available resources, and momentary decisions. This dynamic balance sustains one of the most complex ecosystems on the planet. If this scientific perspective on wildlife resonates with you, following the channel helps to continue documenting these true stories. After the climax, the savanna doesn't fall silent. It continues to operate. Movements become less frequent, decisions less urgent, but the limits remain. Survival now depends on the ability to conserve energy and avoid unnecessary risks. These periods of low intensity are essential for the system to absorb the recent impact and remain functional. In the most recent cycles observed, the system reveals its main characteristic: resilience. Even under prolonged pressure, the savanna does not depend on isolated events to remain functional. Gradual adjustments, reduced movement, route changes, energy prioritization allow predators and prey to remain active within viable limits. Ecological studies show that these periods of accommodation are just as important as moments of conflict. They determine who can get through the dry season without physically collapsing. Here, survival is the result of consistency, not intensity. With the immediate pressure reduced, the system reveals its true scale, the long term. In the savanna, survival is not measured solely in days, but in successive cycles. Individuals who survive critical periods carry this advantage forward, influencing reproduction, territorial occupation, and future stability. This is how ecological continuity is built, slowly. At the end of the observed cycle, the functioning of the savanna is confirmed. There are no permanent winners, only individuals temporarily adjusted to the prevailing conditions. Energy, space, and time shape every decision. When these factors align, life goes on. When that doesn't happen, the system reorganizes itself. This constant alternation is what keeps the savanna active across generations. At the end of this cycle, the savanna remains. Not intact, not immutable, but functional. Predators, prey, and the environment are all subject to the constraints imposed by the dry season. This is how this ecosystem endures over time. Not through the absence of pressure, but through its continuous capacity for adaptation. If this type of scientific documentary makes sense to you, follow the channel to continue observing these real cycles of nature. This video is a visual and narrative recreation made with the support of artificial intelligence for educational and entertainment purposes. The scenes are illustrative and may not accurately represent real animal behaviors or the environments depicted.